Hey guys, welcome back to Based MMA. In this video guys, I'm gonna be discussing the top 5 UFC fights in 2023 so far. We're a little bit more than halfway into the year. I probably should have made this video around June, but I'm making this video in August guys because there's been so many good fights this year. Some fights have been a little bit interesting in the fact that there's been like a one-sided domination, maybe an early knockout. So these are just my personal favorite UFC fights of 2023 so far guys. And with all that being said, please make sure to like and subscribe the video. And I'm gonna start off with some honorable mentions guys, because there's some fights that did not make the top 5 of this list for me for many different reasons. Either one, because there was an early KO, which is really exciting, but it's not really like a fight that I'll go back and rewatch. Just the knockout itself goes viral, but it's not a fight that you go back and rewatch. So starting off with honorable mentions, this is a fight that happened recently. Sean O'Malley versus Aljamain Sterling is an honorable mention, just because the first round there wasn't a lot going on. It was more of both guys trying to, get their timing down, managing distance, kind of reading what the other guy was doing. And then the second round, obviously Sean O'Malley was able to land the right hand and drop out Aljamain Sterling. So the fight itself wasn't like this war or anything that you'll go back to rewatch besides the knockout itself. So for that reason, Sean O'Malley versus Aljamain Sterling just did not make the top 5 for me. Another fight that was kind of not similar I would say, but I would say that similar in the fact that there was an early knockout, and that was Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier 2. An incredible fight as long as it lasted, but like I said, it just wasn't long enough for it to make my top 5. Another underrated fight, Chris Curtis versus Kevin Gastelum, a 3-round kind of war. I really enjoyed this fight. I thought Kevin Gastelum looked pretty good in this fight. So I thought this was a pretty decent fight. Another fight that didn't make the top 5 for me was Dan Hooker versus Jalen Turner. Another fight that I really enjoyed. I think a lot of us were expecting Dan Hooker to just get completely washed out in this fight, but he did a lot better than expected and was able to come back and beat Jalen Turner. So for that reason, I think this is one of the best fights of 2023 so far. Another fight, I would say a woman MMA fight that I really enjoyed this year was Maycee Barber versus Amanda Ribas. This was an absolute war, and Maycee Barber was able to get the finish in this fight. I really enjoyed watching this one. Probably my favorite female fight of the year. Another one that did not make the list was Jeff Neal versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. I really enjoyed this fight. Probably my favorite fight of UFC 280. I believe it was 285. I thought Jeff Neal put a good performance against Shavkat Rakhmonov. Shavkat Rakhmonov, I think, just was a little bit better in the clinch exchanges and the striking. It got a little bit dicey for Shavkat. Jeff Neal did land a couple good strikes, and it was just a very entertaining fight. Another fight that did not make the top 5 was Josh Emmett versus Yair Rodriguez. Very exciting fight as long as it lasted as well. But Yair Rodriguez pretty much dominated this fight. He was pretty much in control of this fight. But it was still a very exciting fight because of Yair Rodriguez's style. So for that reason. Another fight with Yair Rodriguez versus Alexander Volkanovski. I really enjoyed watching this fight. I know it was pretty much like a one-sided domination, but I still really enjoyed watching this fight. So for that reason, it's one of my favorite fights of 2023 so far. Just did not make the top 5 for me. Now let's start off this list guys. My top 5 UFC fights of 2023 so far. This is a combination of there is going to be TKOs, but most of these fights are, I would say, go the full 5 rounds. Just because I like to see these fighters get tested. I like to see their cardio. I like to see their fight IQ as the later rounds go on. Don't get me wrong, I like seeing early KOs because they're exciting. You get to the UFC events and earlier and stuff like that, but sometimes you just wish the fight could have gone a little bit longer, at least for me personally. So starting up number 5, this was a fight in January, Jamal Hill versus Glover Teixeira. I really enjoyed watching this fight guys. I felt like a lot of people were underestimating Jamal Hill coming into this fight, and I was the one of the few people that felt that Jamal Hill was going to win this fight, that he had a really good chance against Glover Teixeira. I thought a lot of people were overhyping Glover Teixeira because of the Yuri Prochazka fight, in my opinion. But I thought Yuri Prochazka just made a lot of mistakes in that fight that Glover Teixeira was able to capitalize. But even then, like, Glover Teixeira did end up losing that fight because of his fight IQ. And also, Glover Teixeira is a lot older in his career. You know, Jamal Hill, I just felt like he was a bit underrated. His striking is incredibly phenomenal. And I really enjoyed that fight personally because of how well Jamal Hill did against Glover Teixeira, was able to get up from the takedowns, and because of so many people underestimating Jamal Hill, I guess for me, I really enjoyed watching this fight. And for that reason, Jamal Hill versus Glover Teixeira is at my number 5. I know not a lot of people are gonna have this fight in their top 5 of UFC fights so far for this year, but for me, it makes it number 5. Now at number 4, guys, this was a fight that was very exciting while it lasted. It only lasted 1 round, but for me, it was incredibly entertaining, and I've gone back to rewatch it many times now. Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush. Now this is kind of similar to the Jamal Hill one, in the fact that a lot of people were underestimating Charles Oliveira coming into this fight because of the Islam Makhachev fight. I felt like a lot of people were overrating Beneil Dariush striking. Man, I heard so many big YouTubers like Lucas Tracy, MMA Guru, saying that Beneil Dariush had better striking than Charles Oliveira, and I just thought that was just such an insane take to have, because I was like, man, that's not true at all. Charles Oliveira is way more technical. And I went back, right, because I was watching all these videos, all this MMA content, and I felt like these MMA YouTubers were convincing me that Beneil Dariush had better striking than Charles Oliveira. So I went back and I watched like Beneil Dariush's last 5 fights, and I realized like, no, Beneil Dariush can get kind of sloppy. He doesn't have the best defense. Yes, he has a nice left hand, nice right hand as well. He has a lot of power in his shots, but the way he mixes up his striking, I would not say is to the level of someone like Charles Oliveira. And Charles Oliveira has shown to also have a lot of power in his hands. I mean, he dropped Justin Gaethje, he dropped Michael Chandler. Like, people, like, not a lot of people drop Michael Chandler like the way Charles Oliveira caught him. Like, Dustin Poirier could not do that to Michael Chandler. Justin Gaethje was not able to do that with Michael Chandler. Those guys went almost a full 3 rounds with Michael Chandler. So that just tells you how good Charles Oliveira is in the striking. And he showed that. He showed that in this fight against Beneil Dariush. And for that reason, like, this is my number 4. This was an incredible fight while it lasted. Charles Oliveira showed that he is getting a little bit better with his striking defense. Maybe not to the level that we wish his striking defense was, his head movement, but still good enough to beat somebody so good like Beneil Dariush, who was like on an 8-fight win streak. So for that reason, this was a very exciting fight for me. I was very happy to see Charles Oliveira win, and now he's gonna fight Islam Makhachev. So for that reason, guys, this is at my number 4. Now moving on to number 3. This is a fight that I really enjoyed, guys. This is a fight that after it ended, I was just super excited for the UFC and just super excited for what's to come. And that is Ilia Topuria versus Josh Emmett. Like, yes, I know that for most of the fight, this was kind of a domination from Ilia Topuria, just outboxing Josh Emmett, landing the better shots on feet, having better hands, having the better fight IQ. But Josh Emmett was in this fight and he was a dog, man. He could tell he really wanted to win, and he was throwing big shots on Ilia Topuria. Some did land and some didn't. Most of them didn't, but still, it just was a very exciting fight. And I know a lot of people expected Ilia Topuria to knock out Josh Emmett in the early rounds, but for me, it was even better that it went all 5 rounds, because I saw Ilia Topuria's cardio. He has really good cardio. We saw a little bit of his grappling into the later rounds, which I really enjoyed, and his striking looked phenomenal. I think this guy's ready for a championship bout. I think he's ready for against someone like Volkanovski, who's probably one of the best fighters we've ever seen. I don't know. I guess time will tell. But I really enjoyed this fight, guys. It made me really excited for the future of the featherweight division. It made me really excited to see Ilia Topuria against other featherweights. And I just thought this was a very exciting fight and very exciting card for that one as well. I thought the Ilia Topuria versus Josh Emmett fight night was incredible. And the main event delivered, guys. I went back. After that fight was over, I went back to rewatch it. It was very exciting for me. And for that reason, that's at my number 3. Now, my number two, I don't think a lot of people are going to disagree with this fight. I enjoyed this fight watching it live. It was so exciting. Just a definition of a war. And that it was Brandon Moreno versus Alexander Pantoja 2 or 3. Some people like to say 3 because it had this fight in The Ultimate Fighter. I'm going to call it 2 because this is like, you know, UFC fight. That's what they call it. Brandon Moreno versus Alexander Pantoja 2. So for that reason, I'm going to call it 2. But yeah, guys, this fight was very exciting. I thought both guys looked incredible. I thought Brandon Moreno had a lot of success, but Alexander Pantoja just showed to be so durable and so tough. And you could tell Alexander Pantoja just wanted it a little bit more. And his shots just had a little bit more power than Brandon Moreno, even though Brandon Moreno does have the slicker boxing, you know, a little bit more technical than Alexander Pantoja. Pantoja just showed that he had a lot of heart coming into this fight, guys, and it was incredible to watch. I know that some people had problems with the fact that Alexander Pantoja did kind of stall in some positions, but in my opinion, I thought it was a good win for Alexander Pantoja and a very clear win. I don't know if I would say it was a split decision. I thought it was a clear Alexander Pantoja, guys, but this was just a very, very exciting fight. I thought both these guys put incredible performances, a war, and for that reason, this fight is at my number 2. Now, at number 1, guys, this is a fight I think that a lot of people are going to have as their number 1. And after this fight, everyone was like talking about this fight for like the next coming weeks, and that was Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski. Just the best fight of 2023 so far, in my opinion. Incredibly technical. Both guys had their moments, and the discussion after this fight was just incredible, man. I had never seen so many people on Twitter argue about who really won and who really came out on top and who's really the number 1 pound for pound fighter. So for that reason, Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski is at my number 1, guys. But please make sure to comment down below. Let me know what fights you've enjoyed so far this year, and please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.